Jennifer Beer and Caroline Packard. The Mediator's Handbook: How Mediation Helps Resolve Conflict. You've tried knocking. You've written a polite note. But every night, the noise from upstairs starts again. Heavy footsteps, loud music, furniture scraping across the floor. It's disrupting your sleep and fraying your nerves. You don't want to escalate things, but you also can't keep pretending it's fine. Then someone mentions mediation. A short meeting, a neutral person, a chance to speak and be heard without shouting or blame. Instead of going to war, you agree to talk. In this blink, you'll learn how mediation helps people move from tension to resolution. You'll see what conditions make it click, why emotional groundwork matters, and how skilled mediators guide difficult conversations toward clarity, trust, and real agreement. These tools aren't just for professionals. They can help you handle conflict wherever it shows up. What is mediation, and why does it matter? Late-night noise, blocked driveways, and a vandalized car. Tempers flare in a neighborhood fed up with the local movie theater. But instead of calling lawyers, the theater manager invited a mediator. Residents voiced their frustrations. The manager listened. No one got shouted down. No one got blamed. The real win wasn't just lowering the volume. It was restoring the peace in a community too close to ignore each other. That is the essence of mediation. It's a structured but flexible process where people in conflict talk things through with the help from a neutral facilitator. Unlike court, no one's forced to take part, and no outsider decides the outcome. You stay in control of your own resolution. The mediator's job isn't to pick sides or impose a verdict. They are there to keep the conversation balanced, focused, and respectful. Mediation works because it centers on what really matters to people: feeling heard, rebuilding trust, and finding fair solutions. You're not boxed into legal categories or limited to what's admissible. If something's bothering you, you can say it. Emotional tensions and practical issues are both welcome at the table. That openness gives the process its strength. Most mediations follow a familiar rhythm. First, each person shares their side without interruptions. Once the emotional pressure eases, the group starts clarifying misunderstandings and building a clearer view of what's actually going on. Then comes the problem-solving phase. People suggest options, test whether they address everyone's real needs, and define ideas into practical agreements. If a deal is reached, it's usually written down and confirmed together. But reaching an agreement isn't the only measure of success. Clarity, emotional closure, or even just a less hostile relationship can be equally meaningful outcomes. What matters is that the process helps people move forward, whether together or apart. The mediator's role is subtle, but essential. They shape the space, not the solution. They read the room, slow things down when emotions run hot, and help reframe the discussion around shared interests instead of fixed positions. Good mediators listen deeply and stay out of the way just enough for participants to find their own path. You don't need to be a professional to use these tools. Teachers, parents, coaches, and colleagues do it all the time. The basics: listening well, staying neutral, and structuring tough conversations. These are skills anyone can learn. And when applied with care, They offer a powerful alternative to conflict that spirals into blame or silence. What lies beneath the surface of a conflict? Before we explore mediation any further, let's look at what causes conflict in the first place. Picture this scenario. Two roommates sat across from each other in mediation, claiming they just stopped getting along. But the more they talked about unwashed laundry, the boyfriend who never left, borrowed keys, it became obvious that these weren't the real issue. Ultimately, it was about respect, privacy, and whether their friendship still mattered. Once they named the concrete behaviors, they finally started a more honest conversation about what was actually at stake. Conflict almost never sticks to the surface. What looks like a fight about rules or behavior is often fueled by deeper emotional or relational pain, hurt feelings, fear, mistrust, or even a damaged sense of identity. That's why people often show up in conflict feeling angry or shut down. They're not just reacting to what happened. They're defending something personal, their values, their safety, their place in a relationship or community. When emotions take over, perceptions get distorted. People start interpreting every word or action as a threat. They lose patience, assume the worst, and double down on winning. That's when small disagreements start feeling huge, and when resolving them gets even harder. But conflict doesn't always feel bad. For some people, the tension gives clarity, purpose, and even a strange kind of energy. Letting it go can feel like losing control or giving up something meaningful. That's part of what makes resolution so complicated. To get past the noise, mediators use a tool called the conflict triangle. It breaks conflict into 3 parts: the people involved and their relationship, the process, how they communicate, who holds power, what systems are shaping the conversation, and the problem itself, what each person wants. If you only focus on one part, like solving the immediate issue, you'll likely miss the bigger picture. One major shift can help. Stop talking about demands and start talking about interests. These are the needs or hopes behind what people say they want. When you do that, conflict becomes less of a fight and more of a shared puzzle. That's where the real progress starts. What conditions are necessary for mediation to work? What makes someone agree to sit down with the person they're in conflict with and believe it's worth the risk? Mediation only works when certain conditions are met, and those conditions have less to do with the issue itself and more to do with the people involved. If both sides are able to communicate, want some kind of resolution, and share a stake in the outcome, then mediation might help. But that doesn't make it a universal fix. There are clear limits. If someone's dealing with abuse, threats, or serious power imbalances, and doesn't have proper support, mediation could make things worse. The same goes for cases where one party lacks the ability to understand what's happening or where someone's trying to use the process for manipulation or revenge. Mediation can also fall flat when the people who matter most to a resolution aren't even in the room. Once it seems like mediation might be appropriate, the mediator starts with private conversations. These early talks aren't just a formality. They're often what decides whether people will agree to participate at all. The goal isn't persuasion. It's listening, building trust, and helping each person think through their concerns. Some people are afraid of confrontation. Others worry about confidentiality. These discussions give space to explore these worries and to explain what mediation really is and isn't. Things can get complicated when mediation is suggested by a judge, manager, or other authority. Even if you're required to show up, you can't be forced to take it seriously. That's why mediators have to be upfront. What happens if you don't agree? What gets shared with the referring party? Can you leave? Clarity makes people feel more likely to participate in good faith. If there is interest, the mediator helps define the shape of the conversation. What issues will be covered? Who needs to be there? What would progress actually look like? If someone essential won't join, the scope has to shift. Even the space matters. A location that feels safe, neutral, and low pressure can make it easier for people to speak honestly. And that's where resolution begins. Resolution starts with emotional groundwork. When a mediator noticed early tensions between participants, he didn't try to ease them with words. Instead, he delayed setting up the room so that when people arrived, they had to help arrange chairs or pour water. That small act of shared effort, simple, physical, and neutral, often softened the atmosphere more effectively than any scripted opening could. That tone of quiet cooperation is exactly what the first half of a mediation session aims to build. You're not jumping into problem solving yet. The real work here is emotional, creating a space where people feel safe enough to speak honestly. It starts before the session even begins, with mediators preparing themselves and the space. They align on roles, review key facts, and make sure everything, from logistics to materials, is ready. Showing up calm and organized isn't just for looks. It helps others settle in too. When everyone's in the room, the opening marks the formal start. This is a structured moment to welcome people, explain what's going to happen, and make sure everyone feels clear on what they're being asked to do. A friendly word and a simple outline of the process can go a long way to easing anxiety. You also have to read the room. Some people show up angry. Others don't want to be there at all. A good mediator stays alert to that, clarifies roles, and responds gently to early resistance. Next comes the part that many participants need most: a chance to speak without interruption. Each person tells their version of events while others listen silently. This first round helps people feel heard, lets them get their story out, and allows grievances to surface. The mediator's job is to protect that space. No summarizing, no judging, just listening, while keeping things on track if someone goes off course. After everyone's spoken, the exchange phase begins. Now the conversation opens up. People start responding, asking questions, and unpacking what they've heard. This is where the deeper stuff tends to come out: confusion, misinterpretation, and buried frustrations. The mediator helps uncover what may be hiding under the surface-level complaints. Emotions matter here too, so rewording sharp language and pointing out shared concerns helps shift the tone from combative to curious. This stage wraps up once the big issues have been laid on the table and there's enough shared understanding to talk solutions. When both sides agree they're ready, the mediator outlines the next steps, and the group moves forward together. How to move from conflict to lasting decisions. During a tense debate at a co-op meeting, someone asked, "How do we make sure everyone pitches in fairly?" That one question shifted the mood. Instead of arguing, people started thinking together. Once the problem was clearly named, the group moved from frustration to shared problem solving. That is the turning point you should aim for in the resolution stage of mediation. At this point, emotions have been aired and needs clarified. Now, the goal is action. Finding ways forward that feel doable, fair, and aligned with what actually matters to everyone in the room. As the mediator, you shift into a new role. Less therapist, more facilitator and sounding board. You're there to keep things realistic, grounded, and open. The backbone of this stage is the topic list. Think of it as your map. It sets out what needs resolving in clear, constructive terms. Instead of vague complaints like, show more respect, the list frames issues as questions like, how do we create a more respectful work environment? This invites action instead of blame. And you don't build this list alone. You make it with the group, and you don't move forward until everyone agrees it's complete. That shared agreement calms the conversation and keeps it focused. Once your list is set, you can start tackling each topic one by one. Early on, anything goes. Every idea gets airtime, no matter how unlikely. Judgment is on hold to make space for creativity. When it's time to narrow things down, the group tests options using 3 filters: gut reaction, alignment with each person's real concerns, and whether the idea could actually work in the real world. You're not pushing for bland compromise here. You're helping shape ideas that genuinely meet people's needs. Now that a few solid options are on the table, it's time to reality check them. This is where the mediator comes in again, gently changing ideas with questions like, will this still work in winter? Or what happens if your manager says no? You're not trying to shut ideas down. You're exploring their limits to make them stronger and more practical. You're also watching for emotional red flags, hesitation, exhaustion, or doubt. When the group lands on decisions they feel good about, write them down. Agreements should be clear, specific, and framed in positive terms. Say who will do what, when, and how. And try to avoid vague words like soon or reasonable. If people prefer informal commitments, a handshake, or a simple spoken agreement, that's valid too. Closing the mediation session matters. More than just signing papers, this is your chance to acknowledge the work, emotional effort, and progress made. Read the agreement aloud, answer any final questions, and confirm what happens next. When done right, even the most skeptical participants leave feeling heard, respected, and ready to move forward. The mediator's tools for guiding people toward resolution. What tools does a mediator rely on to help people in conflict find their way forward? In this final section, we'll explore 3 core skill areas: supporting the people, facilitating the process, and solving the problem. Each of these requires specific tools that help the mediator manage emotions, structure dialogue, and build realistic agreements. Supporting the people begins with creating a space where everyone feels respected and safe to speak. Mediators do this by being fully attentive and staying neutral. They avoid judgment or favoritism, making it clear that every voice will be heard. Active listening is one of their primary tools, focusing completely on what each person says, then showing they've understood. When tensions rise, a calm and steady manner helps keep emotions in check and redirects attention to the real issues. Another essential tool is asking open-ended, non-judgmental questions. These help participants move beyond surface-level demands and explore what really matters to them. Reflecting and summarizing also play a key role here. The mediator repeats or condenses what's been said in a way that confirms understanding and brings clarity, especially when things get emotionally charged or confusing. Facilitating the process means holding the structure of the conversation without pushing it in a specific direction. Mediators use tools that keep discussions focused and constructive while allowing the participants to stay in control of the outcomes. Reframing is a powerful way to shift the conversation from fixed positions to underlying interests by offering a different lens on the issue. Participants might arrive saying, "I want X," but through reframing, they begin to consider why they want it and whether other options could meet the same need. Summarizing at key moments keeps everyone on the same page, and asking focused, curiosity-led questions helps guide the conversation when it risks going in circles without pushing an agenda. Solving the problem draws on a set of tools designed to open up options and test their feasibility. Once the conversation has moved beyond positions to shared interests, the mediator encourages brainstorming, a stage where ideas are welcomed without judgment. This gives participants the freedom to explore multiple approaches and find overlap. Reframing can also be used here to break up rigid thinking. Once options are on the table, the mediator helps test them for practicality. Do the ideas meet everyone's needs? Are they realistic in practice? Solutions take shape by testing what works. If full agreement is not there yet, a mediator might suggest a step-by-step or trial run to keep things moving. Throughout, the focus stays on what comes next, not rehashing the past. These tools, listening, questioning, reframing, summarizing, brainstorming, and testing, are how mediators support people, hold structure, and help shape solutions that work. The main takeaway of this Blink to The Mediator's Handbook by Jennifer Beer and Caroline Packard is that mediation offers a practical, structured way to handle conflict by focusing on dialogue, not judgment. Instead of picking winners, mediation creates space for people to speak, listen, and understand what truly matters, so they can find a way forward together. It succeeds when emotional groundwork is laid before solutions are explored, and when the conversation is shaped by a neutral facilitator using tools like active listening, reframing, and joint problem solving. Whether or not an agreement is reached, the process itself often brings clarity, closure, and the possibility of repair. All right, that's it for this Blink. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you have a moment, please take the time to leave us a rating. We always appreciate your feedback. And I'll see you in the next Blink.